Alright, hello. I just want to do a couple examples for you guys to reference of graphing some trig graphs. And so I got kind of our little cheat sheet over here where we have the vertical shift, the amplitude, and then this value that helps determine the period, also related to the cycle, and then your horizontal shift, which we've been calling the starting point a little bit. And so I'm going to jump right in, and you can slow it down and pause it as you need to, but I'm going to draw a quick little axes. And we'll label this X, and again this Y. And just jumping right in, this first thing right here is the vertical shift. And it says that we're going to go down 7 units. And that's where we have this dashed line called the midline, or the sinusoidal axis. And then the second value that I usually graph is this number called the amplitude. And if I go 6 units up, and 6 units down, you kind of get the highest point, the maximum and the lowest point of your graph. It's kind of stretched vertically. Next thing I would look at is this 60 degrees. And the only thing in class that was a little bit confusing with this is, do I use positive 60? Do I use negative 60? And the idea here is to think of it as the value that makes the parentheses 0. 60 minus 60 is kind of like our new 0. We're going to use positive 60. You can also think of the minus sign in the definition. So this minus sign over here. Whoop. Anytime you see that minus sign, it means opposite in math. So you can think about the opposite of negative 60. So there's my 60. And then I usually ask the, so I'll put SP for starting point. I usually ask, sine, does sine start high or does it start low? And does it start in the middle? And so when you have sine, remember it always starts in the middle of the graph. And when you have cosine, it starts high. So now the pieces start to come together a little bit. At 60 degrees, since we found the highest point to be -1, it's going to start there. And what's going to happen is it's going to go down and come back up. But we need to figure out how long that cycle is going to last. And that's where this last number comes in. It says that the period is 360 divided by the number in the equation. And if we do that, we get 40 degrees. 9 times 4 is 36. So if we're starting at 60 and the whole thing's supposed to last 40, then the idea is it's going to end at about 100. Shouldn't say at about. It's going to end at 100. And it's going to end where it began. And that comes from the unit circle. And because it has this shape down here that I'm redrawing, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake, guys. This is sine. Sine doesn't start high. Sine starts in the middle. Hopefully if we were in class, you would have called me out on it. But I don't want to restart the whole video, so we're going to fix it. Everything else is the same, but that it's important that we remember that sine starts high. Oh my gosh. For your entertaining purposes. Sine starts in the middle. Goodness. And right halfway between 60 and 80, it's going to hit the middle again. This spot over here, and then the last piece again is at 100. And so it's going to come up, top out, come down, bottom out, and then it's going to keep going. You're going to have this repetition. And what we started doing in class is, if you think about these middle values, what's between 80 and 100, you can get these 5 kind of critical values, is what we call them. And those 5 values are these 5 dots over here. On cosine, it would be these 5 dots. All right, so we got a decent graph there. I'm going to do one more just because that one a little rough around the edges. So let's do one with cosine now. So let's go, I don't know, let's go 20 plus 10 cosine 1/4 x plus 180 degrees. All right, it's a little bit different labeling it. This is the vertical shift, so I'm going to put a 20 right here. This is x, this is y. The amplitude is 10, so I'm going to go up 10, down 10. Vertical shift has this midline. Starting point, the value I'm going to use is negative 180. We're talking about opposites, talking about what makes it equal to 0. And so I'm going to put a negative 180 on my graph. And now because it's cosine, I jumbled my words last time, cosine starts high. And we determined that we're going to start at 180, but at 180 we're going to have this high value. All right, that kind of corresponds to this value on the cosine graph. It's just stuff has been shifted. So this last number, the period, we're comparing it to the original cosine graph, which has a period of 360. But we're going to put that 1/4 in here. And when you divide by a fraction, and you have kind of a fraction in a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. I don't happen to have a calculator handy, but we'll verify this real quick. We got 24, we got 1440. And so the period is 1440. So that means from beginning to end, I need to travel 1440 degrees. And that's going to figure out how to label my graph. And so if I add, negative 180 to 1440, I'm going to end up at 1260. That 1260 would be how I label this piece down here. And because it's cosine, it's going to end at the same spot that it started. So the graph starts high, then it comes down, bottoms out, then it goes back up, and then repeats itself. Again, just to repeat, this is it, but just because it looks a little bit nasty. This right here is one cycle, and the length of that cycle is 1440 degrees. The period is the length of one cycle. I'll leave the rest for you to fill in if you want to. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.